Go to the fourth. Watson desperately trying to bring his team back at his own 36. This isn't going to help. He's holding, he's looking, he's feeling the pressure. His arm is hit and he's picked off. A long night for Deshaun Watson. His first turnover of the season. He finishes with 253 yards, the touchdown, the pick, and 4 sacks. Meanwhile, 3rd and goal. Mahomes looking to put this away. Andy Reid's got mask issues. Tyreek Hill, touchdown in the corner of the end zone. Mahomes, 211 yards, 24 of 32, 3 touchdowns. Chiefs looking very comfortable at home. They win it 34-20. The beginning of their championship defense starts with the win.
For how tall he is, man, he's got the strength of somebody my size, man. He runs the ball like no one I've ever seen at that size, and it's fun to play with, man. It's infectious when you see him out there playing his tail off and running his tail off. You want to go out there and block for him.
He's been doing it since the day he got here. I mean, he's been working hard. He's been learning from his mistakes. He's going to keep getting better. It's another weapon that I kind of have in this offense, and we're going to keep doing whatever we can to keep moving the ball and scoring touchdowns.
All right, the rookie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, clearly was the story. Remember, Louis Riddick made him the first pick in a fantasy draft, and he looked smart last night. The 138 yards rushing, the second most by a player making their Chiefs debut. His 25 rushes, the most ever by a player in a Kansas City debut. So, on a night that was supposed to be all about Patrick Mahomes, it is the rookie running back who steals the show. As we bring my crew in for the conversation here, and Bart, I will start with you as I turn to my left. What can we say is the #1 takeaway from the Chiefs last night?
Wow. I mean, the rich get richer. I'm looking at the Golden State Warriors of football. I mean, they have so many options. You never know who's going to kill you. You take away Tyreek Hill, no problem. You look at Sammy Watkins really come alive. And then this rookie, this Brian Westbrook clone. I mean, you think about Andy Reid, he has to be salivating with the fact that he has a guy that can be, effective in space. And the big concern was, would he be able to stand up and hold up in pass protection? They didn't even give him the option. They just released him, got the ball to him, and got him in space. He's tough in between the tackles. You see him with the R2, L2 spin right here, being able to make defenders miss. And it was a lot of sloppy tackling yesterday, but you got to really give this young kid credit for really, making his name first day against the defending champs. He's playing with his hair on fire, and I think he's going to be one of the top fantasy guys of the league this year.
Yeah, so from a fantasy perspective, a good start, and a reality perspective, a good start. There's Ryan Clark, who joins us this morning as well. That's your LSU guy, RC. What was your #1 takeaway from last night?
Listen, this is what I knew, man. Young Boys dropped top last night, and he knew that album was coming out, and the 225 was on fire, and that's where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is from, and that's what he showed y'all. Listen, you heard Bart mention Brian Westbrook. Brian Westbrook gave me hell when we played, and there was one distinction that you had to make. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not small. He's just short. He's powerful, he's quick, he's elusive, and you saw all of those things on display last night. I think the thing that stood out to me was Kansas City's willingness to start with him with the ball. You said it, Greeny, it was supposed to be all about Patrick Mahomes, but they came out and it was run first, run second, and didn't throw the football. It looked like he was back in Les Miles' offense at LSU, where they refused to pass early, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire made Eric Bieniemy and he made Andy Reid look like geniuses for drafting him with the last pick of the first round. And I think we're going to see more of this. When you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to be ready for 11 personnel. That's 1 back and 1 tight end. That's going to put you in packages on defense with nickel backs on the field. Now you have a small box, a more physical offensive line, and a running back that can make you miss in the phone booth. Justin Reed, who's a good friend of mine and plays safety for the Houston Texans, when I wake up this morning, there's a text on the group chat that says, "Hey man, I like Clyde." And the reason is he's hard to tackle. He's a guy that's going to be tough when he finishes runs, and he can do more than one thing in the pass game. He can block, he can catch the ball. This is a home run for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you lost Damian Williams, who could have been the Super Bowl MVP going down the stretch last year, and you replace him with a better player. For Clyde to go from that offense at LSU with Joe Burrow and all those great receivers to this offense in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and all those great receivers, he understands how to fit in great offenses, and he's done that already for this team.
All right, so Rob Ninkovich, you're playing linebacker, and you're staring on the other side of the field. They have Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback. Now they have this dynamic rookie behind him. You've got Kelsey, you've got Hill, you've got Watkins, and we haven't even begun to talk about some of the other weapons. What do you do if you're playing against this team? What are you thinking going into a game?
Well, look, number one, you have to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, they're just going to stuff it down your throat. You can't stop the run. That's the biggest issue for the Texans. That was my biggest takeaway. Yesterday, they couldn't stop the run, and we are witnessing the cause and effect of not having a training camp where you're actually putting pads on. You're not going out there and playing any preseason games. And Bill used to say it all the time in practice, oh, yeah, I got him. I tagged off. Oh, yeah, I got him. But in game speed reality, you're missing that guy. And we saw a lot of missed tackles yesterday. We saw, sloppy defense. And I know Bart's going to say, look, with the Kansas City offense, you can't, go heavy. You can't bring an extra guy. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to stop the run with your front seven. You got to be able to stop the run with the defensive line and your linebackers. If you bring in an eighth guy, it really doesn't matter. He's a safety. He's usually a small guy anyway. So when I'm watching this game last night, I am watching a defense that doesn't know how to stop the run. And how do you stop the run? You get out there every single day in practice. You do 9-on-7. You do half line. You do all the things that they have limited now with the preseason not being there, with the rules and regulations of how you can hit and all those different things. That is going to come out in these live action games. We are seeing it. And I think in the first few weeks of the season, all these games, fantasy people are going to be going nuts because their running backs are going to be making a ton of points.
Bart, I can sitting 6 feet from me and is definitively shaking his head. Why do you disagree?
I mean, because Ryan understands, right? He understands when you go against these sub packages and you're on the second level, you have to pick your poison. And we always used to say, listen, if Brady is handing it off, he's not throwing it. And what happens is when you decide to drop that eighth man in the box, now you have one-on-one with Tyreek Hill. You have one-on-one with Travis Kelce. It's like dying a slow death. You're hoping that maybe you get a holding penalty. You're hoping that maybe somebody has a procedure penalty where you put them behind the sticks and then they have to be into typical, predictable type of positions as far as throwing the ball. It had nothing to do with that, I believe. I think because the Kansas City Chiefs has no problem making tackles. What happened is they spread you out so deep that you have a body for a body because you're in a sub package and you have two deep safeties, and they just got beat up because they couldn't afford to drop the eighth man in the box or the dime or the extra safety inside of the box because of the personnel.
It's possible that both are true also, and the reality is that Kansas City offense is going to be trouble for everybody all year long. We'll talk much more about this. Again, we'll get Mark Sanchez into the conversation as well. But, of course, as we saw at the very beginning of the highlight, the two teams held a moment of unity at midfield before the game began, where some of the nearly 17,000 fans who were in attendance could clearly be heard booing. Here was some of what the players had to say about that after the game.
I honestly didn't hear a lot of booing. So I've seen a little bit of the videos after, and I'm just we wanted to show unity, and we wanted to show we were going to come together and keep fighting the good fight, and I hope our fans will support us like they do on the game every single day.
We talked all until really last night, and we, kept it up front, and he told us what they were going to do. I told him what we wanted to do, and we got on the same page.
The moment of unity, I personally thought was good. I mean, the booing was unfortunate during that moment. I don't fully understand that. There was no flag involved. There was nothing involved with that besides two teams coming together to show unity.
All right, so RC, what was your reaction to all of it, to all of the things that we saw take place before the game last night?
Well, I know there was a lot of discussion about what each team was going to do. I talked to some of the players, and they discussed, those things together as well. The Kansas City Chiefs decided to be on the field for the playing of the anthems, and the Houston Texans decided to go a different route and stay in their locker room. I thought that the moment of unity was something that could have been, should have been, and could have been expected. And those teams came together to show that, it's not about division. It's not about which color works. It's not about black or white. It's about being on the side of right. And you can't be on the side of right if you're separated. And so I thought that the two captains of each team, the two highest players in the NFL, decided to make a stand, decided to have a demonstration that showed that the NFL is behind the fight for social justice, but also show that the players are not just going to go out and play football without keeping this as a priority and without making sure that this is on the forefront of everyone's mind while they play this game. And so for me, I thought it was good. There's going to be boos, Greeny. There's going to be people that disagree. There's going to be the shut up and play crowd. There's going to be the this is football, keep politics out of it crowd. But I think the one thing that these players understand, especially the black players, and I do believe their teammates understand, is when they leave that stadium, Patrick Mahomes is still black. When Deshaun Watson leaves that stadium, he is still black. And all the green in the world that they have in their bank accounts cannot let them escape that. And so when they have to deal with these things off the field, when their families have to deal with these things off the field, and when they want to be voices for these things off the field, they don't get to take time off from that. So I thought it was great that these teams decided to do this, that the NFL allowed them to do this, and that the coaches were on board as well. This is a step in the right direction. The boos will continue, but I believe eventually there'll be more cheers.
Bart, what did you think of it all?
Well, I thought that, you think about the NFL or you think about sports and athletics, this has always been part of the platform, whether you want to go back to, Llewellyn Cinder and Jim Brown and what they tried to do. And we're still fighting for the same things that they were fighting for back then. I think, how can you boo unity? I mean, you have players coming together wanting equality for all. I think that's something that we all should get behind. Nobody ever has an issue when the NFL comes united for cancer, which they're going to wear pink in October, or mental health awareness. I think this should be right aligned with that. I don't know how you can boo for being on the side of right. I think the players are obligated to use their platform. I think Kaepernick started this. The NBA is taking it further, and it's time for the NFL to take the baton.
All right, so that's how it all began last night with the season. Before the first game, into the first game, and on we go into the first weekend. We have much more to do as we continue on this Football Friday here on Get Up. Coming up, Cam Newton has been feeling the love in New England, but will the odd couple bring home another division title for the Patriots? Our guys have opinions. And the Lake Show heating up in the bubble. Kendrick Perkins will be here. Tell us if LeBron and the Lakers are now his favorites to win it all. All that and more as we get going. This is Get Up on ESPN.